What will be the future of biometrics? What biometric modalities are better than fingerprint, face, and palm for the future? These are some of the frequently asked questions to me. In this episode, we'll discuss ECG, aka EKG, as a biometric modality and how it will change the future of personal authentication. Welcome to my podcast. I'm your host, Ashok Singhal, and today I'm joined by Robertino Matausch, the CEO and founder of Cardioid. Robertino has over 30 years of experience in cybersecurity, having worked with renowned brands such as F1, Microsoft, HP, World Economic Forum, and so on. In this episode, we will delve into the fascinating world of biometrics with ECG and learn more about Cardioid and its mission. Welcome to the podcast, Robertino.
Good morning, Ashok. A wonderful day here in Germany, and I hope you also in Vegas have. Well, it's quite late for you right now, so you're going to bed soon. But it's absolute pleasure to be with you and to discuss about the future of of biometrics. Thank you that I have the chance to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule. Really appreciate it, Robertino. Let's get right into the podcast. And Robertino, let's start with a high level pitch of your Cardioid. Could you please give us some background about your company? When was it founded? Where are you based? What pain points are you trying to address?
A lot of questions for 60 seconds. Well, Cardioid was founded. Let's say the idea was born in 2015, where we also founded the first seed of the company in Germany, and then we decided to move forward to the Netherlands, to The Hague, where we were located at the HSD, the Hague Security Delta, with a BV, and then we moved to Prague and extended right there for research and development. So we are right now in the Czech Republic and Germany and The Hague, but the most important thing, the development part, the research, is located at Brno, directly in the south of the Czech Republic. I mean, the pain point, you asked for the pain points, that's a good question. You mentioned already I have 30 years in the security business, and definitely when you look at all the authentication methods you have, they are definitely all lacking of the proof of the identity. So they are hackable, they are leaving traces, etc. And we were looking for a biometric modality that is eliminating all these weaknesses, but it is not like putting additional layers on top of each new modality. It has to be intrinsic. So the biometric modality of the ECG is exactly the answer to that questions. It cannot be spoofed. It is not leaving traces. It is more unique than a fingerprint. It is not visible from the outside. You cannot measure it from the outside. You cannot steal it. The only theoretical way to get it is to force the person to unlock something. But you cannot, even then, you cannot steal the ECG from that person. So that was our idea. And the question was, how can we solve it? How can we make it convenient for the user? I mean, the ECG, when you're going to the doctor, you get all the spots on your body, and then they are measuring the ECG. And we were looking for a convenient, permanent verification and authentication of the user.
You touched upon some very important points about security, liveness detection, and facial biometrics and fingerprint biometrics being more susceptible to spoof attacks, whereas on the other hand, ECG is more intrinsic, more internal, and it is hard to steal. And at the same point, if the technology is usable enough, then certainly there is a high probability of getting traction and being accepted by user. So I think that's great. I really like that concept. Could you please explain what ECG is, how it works, and what exactly does it measure for the audience?
Well, the ECG, usually people are, nearly everybody, even myself in the beginning, was mixing up the ECG with the heartbeat. So that is what you hear. we are explaining it always like that. The heartbeat is the bass drum in a song. When you hold that bum, bum, bum every quarter or something like that, then that is your heartbeat. But the heartbeat is just a small part of the ECG. The ECG is the whole orchestra, it is the whole song. And what we are doing is we are listening to that song that is absolutely unique to a person. And then the ECG is, in theory, nothing else than electricity. And we are measuring that electricity that is going through your heart, that is defining the rhythm of your heart, the song of your heart, and that is what we are measuring. And then we are analyzing that and find out the unique identifiers for a person.
Interesting. I like your analogy to music and having a bass kind of rhythm and all the other elements around it. That is very interesting. And now I can understand the difference between like a heartbeat and the actual ECG, what it actually measures. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned about earlier, like some drawbacks with existing modalities like spoofing and other issue like lookalikes with the facial biometrics. Is that the key reason behind choosing ECG over other modalities or other options, or did you have some other pain points also you were trying to address with ECG?
Yeah, the point is, of course, the idea was first of all to find a secure, universal, convenient modality. And then, second, of course, we were addressing exactly the problems. For example, when you're looking at Face ID, it is always bound to a very expensive mobile phone. And then the Face ID works with that mobile phone, nothing else. But what is if you go to an ATM, you want to open a door, you want to start your car? So what we were looking at was a modality that is convenient. You can use it everywhere, and you're not bound to a specific device. So that makes it slightly different from the other approaches. They are using the mobile device, for example, as the authentication factor. But at the end of the day, the proof is not given that it is the identity. You can just say it is the mobile phone. We are doing it in a different way. We say the sensor can be everywhere. You can wear it on your body. You can implement it in an ATM, and then you're proving directly there with your ECG, your identity, the transaction, confirming it, the payment, the email, you're signing it, locking the door, etc. So that is a complete different approach to the biometric part. And especially, again, you have then the benefit that you're not leaving a trace. So with a Face ID, somebody can, when you're going to the ATM, they can picture you, they can make a video. Voice recognition is the same, they can record your voice. But with the ECG, you're never leaving a trace. You unlock the ATM, your banking account, and you go away without traces, but with a security that it was really you who was doing the transaction, for example.
That makes sense. It's just like having wherever there are sensors that reads the ECG, we pretty much can use the ECG biometrics and technology over there. For I was doing some research and looking into ECG and learned that traditionally there were like electrodes, and you have to hold the electrodes for certain amount of time to read ECG, and then technology evolved into a light form of electrodes where you don't have to hold these electrodes for a long amount of time, but for a relatively shorter amount of time. But then it introduces more in the sample. Could you share your approach to the discovery process that you went through as you were looking into ECG?
I loved it because it was a very, very painful way, a long road, to be honest. We started with an Arduino with a very simple, just two electrodes that were just stick my arms on one side and holding it on the other side. And we saw just a quite bad curve. We said, okay, is that really the way? Should we do it? Then we developed it. I think I have a sample device right here. I can show it to you. Hopefully, you see that one here. It's hard to see. That way
Yes.
you see the
Yes.
sensors are poorly located. So that is a development kit for medical devices. So we improved with that. but still it was very hard, and you had to measure for 30 seconds. It was not transmitting in real time. Then we figured out, for example, we tested the Apple Watch, great product. From that perspective, well designed. We got the best results on that, on the stability and the clearness of the um, signal. So you have always to differentiate. It is not only how good the signal is, because our AI-based algorithms are still detecting the unique factors, but it is also how steady is the signal. With the first device I showed to you, it was just breaking after 10 seconds, so you had nothing to analyze. The Apple Watch is a wonderful product on that case. It is absolutely reliable and has medical grade signals. So we found that awesome, but still we had the problem. It is always measuring 30 seconds and then gives you the data. And nobody wants to unlock his door in that time frame. He is not waiting for that. So we were searching for other hardware, and we found a LiveCore, for example, a US-based company that is in the medical area, and they have sensors you can carry with you, and then you can authenticate in real time, and then the procedure just takes 3 to 4 seconds. So
I think
you see, it was a long road to find the right devices to do that.
absolutely, absolutely. The example that you mentioned earlier about, the difference between Apple Watch and the technology that you are developing, it's the nature of the real time, feedback. Whereas in Apple ID, it takes the ECG every 30 seconds or every X seconds, whereas your product is real time feedback. So consumers don't have to wait for n number of seconds before they get a response. It's within 3, 4, 5 seconds. You do the ECG, the reading, you do the authentication, and then you move on to whatever the use case is.
Exactly. So that is just to show it right here. Can you? I hope you can see it. I'm just dimming the light slightly. Then it's getting better, I think.
Yeah.
So you see, these are the devices we're using right now from a LiveCore. It is a very handy device you can carry with you. And these are exactly the devices that are doing it in real time. And then you can connect everything via Bluetooth. So, and it's asked also for the noise, etc. There is also the problem definitely with the quality of the sensors and the time period. And we are thinking about an AI-based filter that is learning the noise from the different sensors, identifying them, and then applying the specific filter for that sensor. So you have a very clean ECG signal that can be then processed by our AI for the authentication. So I would call it adaptive sensor detection or adaptive filtering or something like that, but it's AI based.
That is amazing. That's good to hear that now that you have, accomplished a first milestone to have your technology integrated with, live core hardware sensors. And now you're taking it to the next level and really orchestrating the flow of signals from different hardware devices and kind of have a common interface that will feed into your AI based, authentication. Next question to you, Robertino, is like every startup goes through its ups and downs during the discovery process. And there comes a moment when it's like, things just started to work and make sense. Could you talk about that aha moment that you had or that the team had that really motivated the team to just keep going and make more progress?
Finding the unmute button. Yeah, the aha effect. That was. Yeah, it was. We were quite frustrated during the first period because, in as we started, we had some competitors on the market, and it was common sense that you're using the graph of the ECG that is analog, and you're analyzing the graph itself. You say, okay, we're figuring out certain points on the graph, and then we are detecting how it is working. We're using fast Fourier transformations, wavelets, everything that was well documented in science, and said, yeah, that is the way you have to do it. And we was and why we were frustrated was we didn't get good results. So we had a detection rate for 95%. That sounds awesome, but it's at the end of the day, it's nothing, especially if the true rejection rate is also very low. That means you just imagine a nightclub with a bouncer. You look similar to Robertino. Yeah, get in. And that rate is nearly the same, but you say, oh no, you don't get in. So you have a 50-50 rate of fakes you let in. And for security and authentication, you need a 100% true rejection rate. So we were
Absolutely.
sitting there having some beer. We had, I think, 8 different algorithms, tried to combine them somehow. And I was so frustrated that, and then I had let's say an idea. Hey, what about AI? AI is pattern recognition. So when we're using AI on top of it, and then it is the judge. So we are running the signal through all of the algorithms, and then the AI should judge about it based on experience. Makes sense, I thought. And we were sitting there, and then Tomasz, our AI guy, said, to be honest, that is a stupid idea. Why are, and then he explained it to me in a very dramatic way. He said, okay, we have right now 5 butchers, and we have the AI is a well-known brain surgeon. And now you're asking the brain surgeon, the well-known one, which one of the butchers should do the surgery? Why don't we ask the guy himself to do it? And so we kicked off all the standard algorithms and just focused on AI. And that was the breakthrough. And in the first tests, we reached a true rejection rate of 100%, no matter which sensor we were using. So the cheap one, the Apple Watch, we things, no difference. True rejection rate 100%, and a true acceptance rate of 99.92% on one heartbeat.
That was a phenomenal moment when you figure out, let's have AI decide, what's a good match versus a false match versus relying on each algorithm to figure out what the right response. Let's keep going. And the next question to you is, let's talk about a specific use case, Robertino. And if you could please explain a specific use case and help us understand how your product addresses that pain point in that use case.
Oh, a specific one. Usually, I'm telling the story when you're starting your day, and you just use your Apple Watch, and then you just measure your ECG on the Apple Watch, and then you can go into your day and say, okay, let's assume you have a device like the Apple Watch, best example. And a specific use case can be, for example, unlocking your car. So in theory, either you're activating your Apple Watch with the ECG, you have the AI template of your ECG on your Apple Watch, and then you can use it via Bluetooth to unlock your car. Option number 1. Much better than keyless go systems, much better than anything else, because only the guy with the Apple Watch authenticating can open the car. Might be a nice option, well, but another use case can be you don't have an Apple Watch, you don't like it, you have a very, let's say, you're driving a Rimac or something like that, and you sit into your car, into your Audi or BMW, and you have a Cardioid steering wheel, and it has 2 sensors. So you enter your car, you don't any keys, nothing like that. You just put your fingers on the steering wheel, 2 thumbs, then the car is authenticating you with your ECG, says, oh, it's Ashok, automatically adjusts the seat, the air condition, the radio, everything, plays your favorite song, and you are authenticated as the user of the car. And then you can start the engine. If I'm sitting in, says, I'm sorry, you're not the owner of the car, I don't do anything. So ECG can, for example, be used for authenticating drivers. You just imagine like a Tesla that is then reducing the horsepowers for certain drivers, or give you more a range because you have a different contract. So you have a 100% proof of the driver. Or ATM. email signatures, or you're using a device like from a live core, the next generation will be in credit card format, and then you're just wearing it with you. And when you go to the ATM, or if you want to have a payment, you just take your live core card, put your thumbs on it, and sign the transaction with your ECG. Then you're leaving the building, you're going to the postal office, and you have to provide a signature. They say, okay, please prove your identity. You just put your thumbs on it. The postal system was just verifying against a blockchain storage for identities. We call it NFT verify, and then just gets the information and approves, yes, it's the right person to receive that letter, that package, or whatever. Or you're during your workspace, you're signing an email. Usually the problem is everybody can send an email from your laptop. As long as he knows your password, easy.
Hmm.
So now you can put a signature on it directly with your ECG card. So you're taking the Alive core, saying, oh yeah, it's important because it's maybe a transaction. Thumbs on it, or you have two sensors in your laptop, you put your fingers on it, and you can sign it directly with that. So you have a lot of situations in the real world where you have to prove who you are. And all the biometric modalities today are not a proof who you are. And ECG is the equivalent in the biometrics of the I am and I can prove it.
Hmm. Now, I see your point about the wide range of applications ECG offers. Just like any other modality too, it's just a more secure and more usable form of authentication in terms of biometrics. Now, given again we discussed about spoofing issues with other modalities, ECG obviously offers more security now, and it is to a point where technology has made it usable also. So that's why, as to your point, it has just opened up a wide range of applications with ECG.
Exactly. The interesting thing is when we're discussing with people, the Joe average, I think you call that in the US, and as soon as he understands how convenient it is and how secure it is, um, people are thinking about, oh, then I can use it right there and there and there, and they have much more ideas than we ever thought about it. But definitely, the point is we have to make it convenient, so it can be used in your daily life. And convenience means in that point you can carry it with you. Um, you have it on an Apple Watch or on a credit card format or something like that. So because it's otherwise it's getting complicated. And the
Hmm.
benefit is you can implement the technology into devices like a car, like an ATM, or you can wear it with you like a digital ID that can also contain your driver's license, etc. So that is, for example, an idea to have official documents, or let's say official verification in our blockchain NFT verify. So if the police stops you, driver's license, you just put your thumbs onto the device, and he automatically sees, okay, that these documents are stored for you: the driver's license, the ID card, the passport, etc. And he can verify your identity not only by a picture, definitely by your identity, by that biometric.
I see. I see. That makes sense. You mentioned about device and you mentioned about NFT a few times. I mean, obviously, security and privacy are key market concerns. Could you help us understand where is the data, consumer data, like ECG data, getting stored? Is it in the device? Is it in the cloud? Or what kind of model do you offer for companies that are looking into ECG biometrics?
I love that question because the answer is, in Germany we have that it depends. It depends on the requirement of the security. In the best case, we are not storing anything.
Hmm.
So then we just generate. What we're doing is, first, on a rollout, we are generating an AI template. This template is unique for every individual, and then it can be stored, and that is important. It can be stored on a device. We have recommendations like if you have using a core, an ARM processor, you have a protected memory where you can store it encrypted. That is a good level of security for the template. Of course, you can store the template in the cloud, in the blockchain with the NFTs, with smart contracts to other services. The most important thing is we are never storing the ECG itself. So if the ECG is measured, the communication from the device to the requesting device is always encrypted.
Hmm.
The sensors themselves identify against the other devices. So they know each other, so they know, are they allowed to talk to each other or not? So that is generated by a public key infrastructure, for example. So that is, the communication is encrypted. We are never storing the ECG. The only thing where where it is temporarily stored theoretically is on the process of the authentication, but that is usually happening in real time. That means the ECG is fed into the template and unlocks it, and then it's done. And that takes 3-4 seconds at the current state, and that is very important. The current state means we have a proof of concept, a lab application that needs that is permanently improved. So usually the authentication should take less than a second, but it cannot be faster because one heartbeat is roughly 1 second. So you cannot be faster than that, but 1 second, 2 seconds max is our goal for every authentication on any device.
I see. I see. So basically, what you're saying is you are not storing the actual ECG data of people. You are converting it into a template which is secured in a decentralized model. It is secured safely in a device, secure storage in a device. And in case of like a centralized cloud-based architecture, it's the template that is getting stored. It's not the actual raw ECG data that is stored.
Exactly. So we
Ex-
can ensure that no data can be stolen, and even if that is theoretically somebody is hacking the database and stealing the templates, he does not know where does it belong to. So who do I have to attack on that? And they
Mhm.
cannot compromise the template because they don't know the input signals for the template. So
That
it's
makes
the
sense.
template that for itself is useless for them.
Right. Right. It's just like few, like as we all know, like with other biometrics, 0101, and you can just reverse engineer back to the same ECG data of a person.
Exactly. It's like a private key and the public key. The ECG is the equivalent to the private key. You have it saved in your heart, and the
Yeah.
public key is useless because, well, everybody can have it, but the only thing what he can do with it is, oh, nothing, because it's the public key.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Awesome. Moving on, you mentioned earlier about few competitors in the market who have tried a similar thing. Could you give us an idea of the market landscape, and do you have any direct competitors, or do you have a unique offering? You also mentioned that you already have your technology or product integrated with LifeCore. Is there a similar product out there? Could you give us a sense of the competitive analysis?
Oh, yeah, that is always, of course, everybody thinks his baby is the most beautiful one, or his giants are the smartest ones. Well, we had a lot, not a lot, I would say there were 2-3 companies who were on the similar way. One of the most famous ones is Naimi. Um, they started in also with the ECG, and they failed, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately or not. Well, I'm always happy when somebody is successful. In that case, they claimed in the beginning they had developed their own wristband. It was a great idea, to be honest, but they failed because exactly they went the same way as we did, the
Hmm.
typical well documented analysis of an ECG signal, and the detection rates were not good enough. And so they decided to go to a niche that is pharmaceutics at the moment. They have still a wristband, but they just reduced ECG on aliveness detection. The real biometric modality on that wristband is a fingerprint.
Hmm.
So authenticating the user by a fingerprint, not by the ECG. So definitely failed. Then we had there was a spin-off in Portugal. They have a similar name as we had, Cardio-ID, um, but they never developed a real product out of that. They have just mentioned cybersecurity in a side note on their webpage, but unfortunately, no algorithms, no final product, nothing like that. So not a real competitor. Then we had Be Secure in Ireland. They also started with ECG authentication, and they developed some libraries for that, exactly what we did before. And well, unfortunately, they failed also because they never did that. Maybe it was Tomasz and some Czech beer, but that aha was
Hmm.
not there. And now they are moving also to the health environment because you can earn more money with that at the moment.
Hmm.
E-health is a big deal. ECG analysis on e-health is a big market. So what they are focusing is definitely to get something of that market. We are not targeting on that. We have a different philosophy. We don't even want to develop products, to be honest. Not a wristband, nothing like that. I see us more like NVIDIA. We are developing the core technology, the blueprints, etc. And who wants to integrate it in his product can integrate it. If you
Hmm.
want to build up your own infrastructures, here's an SDK. Here are the basic drivers. That is how you should do it. Go for it. That's it. That is the reason why we are working with Alive Core. They have ECG data, they have great devices, and they are working, and we can use them for our niche security. They are in e-health. They don't care about security, but it's a great partnership with them because they have excellent hardware. And that saves us a lot of time for developing our own hardware. We don't want to do that because hardware is a painful business and it's so hard to develop, etc. So that is the reason we are focusing definitely on SDK and IP.
That is a very interesting view of the market landscape right now. Do you have patents in this space, Robertino?
Yes, we filed the patents for the AI authentication on based on ECGs. So it is on its way. We have the IP on that, and we are the yeah, I would say worldwide the only ones. Everybody is claiming it, but when you go through the patent landscape, you see Huawei, Hitachi, Samsung. Everybody has some kind of patent on that, but in the most cases, it is either the sensors or it is never it is authentication. That is interesting, but it is always how to measure it, how to store it, or that you can use it for e-health or something like that. But it is always more technical. Even our competitor in Portugal, Cardioid, has a patent for using how to use sensors instead of putting them on the chest. So it is more a technical description, but they don't have any IP, for example, on the analysis of the ECG and the authentication method.
I see. I see. So you have a core IP around the analysis of data, AI technology. So that is a pretty good moat for your business. And you mentioned that you are among the few or the only one in the world that have live product that you can demonstrate with the product.
Exactly. So we have written let's say a small application for Android at the moment where you can link the Alive Core device, and then you're generating your template, and then you can see. I have sent you the video where you can just put your fingers on the Alive Core, and then it's unlocking, for example, the atomic watch. So it is definitely working already the on Android with low security. To be that is exactly the point. Low security because the template is stored encrypted on the device, so you can switch between different profiles. So we have Tomasz and myself as profile, for example. So when I'm switching to Tomasz, I cannot unlock Atomic Watch. If I'm switching back to Robertino, I can unlock it. So, and you see then also the similarity. It is a showcase application, of course, similarity between the two ECGs that were analyzed and then unlocked.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Awesome. So the last question in this section is, I'm very curious about the state of ECG market as a whole, based on your, working with customers and people. Do you think it is too early for market to adopt ECG, or is it too late? Or could you give us a sense of where the market is with respect to ECG?
Oh, that is a good. ECG started in 1901, something like that. So really 120, 25 years ago. Um, the problem is it has not the maturity yet for the mass market. Um, People see the benefits, and of course we have to prove it. But there are also still a lot of, I wouldn't call it urban myth, but or legends, but there is the myth about the uniqueness of the fingerprint. For example, there is when you're going through the research, there is no proof of the uniqueness. It's just an assumption. So, but it is, let's say, well known since 100 years. It started in 18, don't know what, where somebody compared two fingerprints. Sir Conan Doyle was talking about it, how unique it is. And we have, let's say, empiric proof on that. But at the end of the day, there is no scientific proof on it, but everybody knows it. So everybody's then comparing the fingerprint with the unknown ECG. Is it really that unique?
Hmm.
And is it really doing that? And that is something we have to fight against. We have to prove it somehow. And we have the scientific proof. It is genetic based, etc. You have indicators on your genetic code. There are more I don't know how to call that in the genetic part. That is a part of Klaus, our medical advisor. He is was doing genetics and in Germany. So we know we have the proof, scientific proof, that it is more unique than the fingerprint.
Hmm.
Now people have to accept it. That is always the problem, to accept a scientific fact, because everybody's telling you something different. So that is hard work. Um, on the other side, we have requests of, let's say, governments, we have requests of intelligence services, also the DoD that is looking for unique authentication, and they know already that the ECG is an option. But
Hmm.
then they are looking into the past where everybody failed on the ECG. So they are not sure about is it
Hmm.
how to do it. And now we are a new player right there with a new methodology on analytics, and now we have to prove. The old Greek always said, "Hic Rhodus, hic salta." Here's Rhodus. Is where you have to jump. You can tell us a lot of stories what you did in the past. So, well, we have to prove it. It's hard, but we have to prove it.
Absolutely. And to your point, in fact, this was one of the topics in my last podcast also, when we were talking about automotive biometrics. Some of these car manufacturers have already announced and launched biometric centric cars. And clearly, as you demonstrated, if we have two sensors on that steering, then becomes a very valid scenario where it is directly applicable straight away, and that can be demonstrated that yes, car can be unlocked and ignited by the owner of the car only.
Exactly, and I mean that has also an impact, for example, for insurance companies,
Yeah,
and so all for security. Just if you have children, and you say, "Hey, my son, he's not an experienced driver. I allow him to use my car,
yeah,
but maybe not 500 horsepower, maybe just 100."
yeah,
So, or a speed limit or something like that.
yeah.
I was talking to a supercar manufacturer, and they, for example, are using 12 cameras inside the car to authenticate the driver. I mean, 12 cameras, really? You see, that is the problem is, for example, Face ID, light. If you move your head doing like that, liveness detection, and so they have to use 12 cameras to analyze that. We just need 2 finger sensors on the steering wheel. That's it.
Yeah. Um,
And in theory, I read something about a sensor manufacturer, and theory you can also embed it, and that is brand new, embedded in the seating, so you have contactless ECG. And as we are just delivering the algorithms, in theory you can use that technology embedded in your seating to authenticate a user,
hmm.
touchless, contactless.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
also an option for the car manufacturers. We never know.
Right. Absolutely. Now, this, I think you mentioned about a lot of good points about, how the technology works, that you have IP. So the key takeaway from this discussion is you actually have a working product that is available today. You can demonstrate it. You have the IP for it. You have a product that is working using a ECG for user authentication.
That's it.
Awesome. All right. So this brings us to the end of this section. And moving on to the next section is about a rapid fire, where I generally ask guests some 2, 3 questions around biometrics. So if you allow me, we can begin with that section.
Let's go for it.
Awesome. So if you have to describe biometrics to a 10-year-old kid, how would you describe what biometrics is?
Oh, biometrics in general or ECG biometrics?
Biometrics in general.
Biometrics is something that is on your body or in your body that identifies you as the person who you are. It can be your voice, your how you move, your eyes, everything that is that is your body. It is, and that it is very difficult because usually you are always looking at specific biometrics in the if you're working with it. But for a child, I would say, just imagine, how do you imagine a dog? And then they say it has 4 legs, a fur, a tail, and it's barking. Exactly, that
Yeah.
is what biometrics. They're
Yeah.
describing what you are and who you are.
Right.
And there are factors inside and there are factors outside, like the fur, for example. That is biometrics. The biological description of the body, and then you're extracting something and say, oh yeah, that is something unique on that one. That is like on your cat, the pattern of the fur, for example. You know your cat exactly because of the pattern, or how she is talking to you. That is exactly biometrics.
Very well said it. Makes sense. How do you stay on top of advancements in biometrics, maybe specifically ECG, um, for audience to understand and keep track of these resources? How do you stay on top of these advancements in biometrics?
A lot of thinking, congresses discussing with people inside and outside of the community, talking to people like you who have a different angle of view, um, talking to also designers, students, um, getting every input I can get, especially on the because I'm curious. So also on sci-fi movies, on reading books and walking through the world and say, okay, um, where can we improve? That is the permanent question. How can we
Mm,
improve? How can we make it better? How can we make it more convenient?
mm,
And that is input that give you other people. So sometimes I'm sitting with friends on a beer garden in Bavaria, and then when we are talking about it, I say, okay, how can we improve your life with biometrics? Just imagine you just have to wear a wristband, and they say, oh yeah, that is not that good because I can lose it. Da, 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 da. And it would be better if it would be like that. And then I'm taking that input, talking to our guys in the development, say, okay, what do you think? Is that possible? I mean,
yeah,
you have always to think out of the box,
yeah,
because usually you're focused on your product, and then you say, it is good enough as it is. It is perfect. No, it isn't. It can always evolve. And
Yeah,
the best input you can get is from people outside of your box.
that absolutely makes sense. Yep, very well said. Um, Last question in this section is, what would you do differently if you have to start your biometrics journey again?
Um, Good question. Depends. um, would I restart it with the knowledge I have today, or would I start with the knowledge I had 7 years, 8 years before?
Today, that knowledge that you have today, like what would you have done
Uh,
differently?
um, Nothing, because all the experience, all the failures brought me right to that point.
Uh,
So if I would start again, I'm pretty sure I would make the same mistakes, or maybe different mistakes. Maybe so. No, I wouldn't do nothing different
uh,
at the end of the day, because I love that situation if you fail and then you get up again, or that aha effect as I described, having a beer with the guys.
yeah,
That is something you cannot replicate. So that is exactly the point. Um, People are always asking, "What would you do if?" And I can just say nothing. It brought me right here. So and new experiences will bring me to a different point, but I cannot predict it right now. So no changes, same
that
mistakes, different mistakes, failure, and
that
then
is, yeah,
go for it.
amazing. That is very inspiring to hear about your point about just keep going, accept the failures. It's part of the journey. Focus on the process, not the end point. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. The podcast. I want to thank you, Robertino, for again your time and sharing these insights with us. Last question is, how do folks or organizations reach out to you on social media if they are interested in talking to you, trying your product? How do they reach out to you?
The easiest way, just get in touch with me via LinkedIn or via our webpage, cardioid.digital. So they can reach me, can have appointments, they can ask me anything, or via email. I don't mind. Um, just get in touch with me. So webpage, LinkedIn, easiest way. We have also a Cardio ID page on Facebook, but to be honest, it's poorly maintained because Facebook is not our favorite platform. But we have also an Instagram account, so where we are posting sometimes nice videos and demonstrations or experiences, also out of the biometric and security world. So Instagram, LinkedIn, email, get in touch with us.
Awesome. I will provide all the links in the description. With this, again, Robertino, thank you so much for your time and sharing the insights. I personally learned a lot about ECG biometrics and what the future of biometrics looks like with ECG. So, thank you for sharing all the points. And to all the audience, if you like this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast. And over to you next for the next time. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Ashok, and subscribe to the podcast because it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you,
Take
Robertino.
care, my friend, and
Thank you.
have a great day.
You too. Thank you.